Hey YouTube, welcome to the We All Juggle Knives channel. It's been a while since I've had a folding knife on the channel. This is the Spyderco Yojimbo 2, designed by Mciahel Janich. This is the carbon fiber S90V model of the Yojimbo 2. It's a Knifeworks exclusive. I believe they're doing 2 runs of 400 pieces each. Alright, so very nice blade. However, a lot of this review is going to apply to the lower priced regular model as well. Yeah, now there you see partial hollow grind on a Wharncliffe style blade shape. Made in the USA, the S90V, nice little super steel. Now the blade length is 3 1/4 inches. Now check out the peel ply carbon fiber. The texture on this is closer to a grippy G10. Purposely, of course, because this is designed as a defensive folder. So they want to give you a good grip. You see the polished pocket clip there. It is a 4-position pocket clip. The open pillar construction. The locking mechanism is a compression lock. Right, that's what they call their compression lock. And basically to disengage it, right, you press that there and it disengages the blade. Now the advantages of the compression lock are that it is an extremely compact locking mechanism. I mean, you see it's, it's small, it's light. It's kind of like, almost like a liner lock, but on the spine. But it's not a full liner, you see that. And then it has these partial liners with a little texture there. And the stop pin. If you care about the centering, there's the centering. It's off to the right. Right, and you have the Spyderco opening hole there. And deployment, it's easy to get at. Good deployment. And as far as the lockup, it is secure. I mean, I'm pressing pretty hard on the spine. There's no blade play. They are good at giving you quite a sharp edge. Yeah, quite a sharp edge on this. So good job with the initial sharpness. Now, as far as some of the design choices of this blade, I did watch the Spyderco video where Mciahel Janich explained his choices. He basically said that this indentation right here is for your thumb. That's to apply more pressure in certain types of cuts, known as the Filipino grip. One common misconception is that people think you're going to fight kind of a knife fencing match with your thumb here. No, you are not. You're not going to be circling around and having like a little fencing match with your thumb out there because your thumb could get lopped off. On the contrary, you might have your thumb here, and only for certain moves, okay, only for certain finishing moves or cutting a tendon, artery, your thumb is going to be there for that move. You're not going to sit here with your thumb out for some sort of extended fight. Now, the designer of the knife also said they purposely left off jimping because they didn't want you to get any abrasions, when you're striking with your thumb there. There's jimping that's too smooth, that doesn't give grip, and then there's jimping that's too sharp, that will hurt you. The correct type of jimping is intermediate, and it would have been nice if they had some not too sharp, not too smooth jimping, but he decided to just, circumvent that altogether and just not put any. All right, so that That was his word on that. As far as the choice of the hollow grind, the designer basically said he wanted the tip to have a little bit extra strength because it's such a sharp or pointed tip that he wanted a little bit more material on that tip. And the hollow grind, because it's hollowed out there and it actually gets a little bit thicker just before the edge, it actually gives a slightly stronger tip than if this was a full flat. Now, as for the use of a very pointed Wharncliffe, the choice of that for a tactical folder, there is some logic to it. Basically Mciahel Janich said that the use of that blade shape allows you to have full power in your strike out to the very end of your blade length. That's what he said, and most people are not going to know what the heck he's talking about there, but he does know what he's talking about because first of all, that pointed tip will bite into the surface of a target very, very effectively. This is categorized as a forward tip. The tip is not forward of the edge itself, but the tip is definitely forward of the imaginary center line of this blade. So it's a forward tip, just like a hawkbill and a karambit. Those all have tips that are forward of the center line. And hawkbills, karambits, and Wharncliffes are great for quick slashing because the tips do bite in so well. And it does transfer full power of the strike right to the tip, whereas a swept back tip, like on this Emerson Persian, it does not, because the edge and the tip are constantly through the strike are falling backwards from the surface of the target. When you strike with this, you're constantly having to also do this motion to keep the edge in contact with the target. All right, so this is a slicer. If you want to do slicing strikes like that, like a butcher knife, right, going through ribs, this is a great slicer. All right, but if you want to do a quick slash, meaning like a jab, but like that, right, a quick slash as opposed to a slice, this is going to dominate in doing a quick slash. This is not that good for doing a quick slash. It's more of a slicer like that. If I were to do a real quick slash with a trailing point blade, where am I going to hit? Where am I going to make contact with the target? I'm not going to make contact at the tip, because to do that I'd have to be holding it like this, which is awkward. I'm going to make contact with the belly, right? So that you're contacting with the belly, so you're not getting the full length advantage of your blade. With a Wharncliffe, there's no belly, so you are getting the full length advantage because when you do a quick slash, you're cutting with the tip. All right, so even though this is longer, in that particular technique, this is more efficient. Likewise, with what's called close cutting or a draw cut, if you were to do a long draw cut with this, you're contacting, with the belly, with that curve. So you're drawing it across the target like that. With this thing, you're contacting with the tip and a little of the edge, right? So you're drawing it across the target like that. Because that tip is constantly biting deeper and deeper into the target as you draw it across, this is a very strong draw cutting shape. Whereas this, for that particular cut, not as strong. All right, so when Mciahel Janich says in like one sentence, this is going to give you full power to the end of the blade in your strike, he does know exactly what he's talking about, all right? Basically, this is very good for a quick jabbing slash. With such a pointed tip, it's also very good for a jabbing thrust, which is usually done to the hand of the attacker, and you're not going to just do one. It's going to be several because their hand is going to be moving around. And a quick jabbing like that, maybe even as you're like doing shuffle steps back, kind of defensively, but striking as you do it to deter them, it's very effective because one jab can really mess up the back of someone's hand. And if things become more extreme, you can also basically hunt for eyeballs as well. So putting all that together, you know, how can you think of, if you had to actually use this, how can you conceptualize using it? Well, it would be a combination of long-range strikes, kind of like jabs, where you're basically tip cut slashing, as well as non-committed thrusts, and then at closer range, you're cutting things. Muscles, ligaments, arteries, you're cutting things with Filipino grip there if this stuff doesn't work. And here we have a comparison to similar designs. Yojimbo 2 here. This is a Black Hawk knife called the Be Warned. This was also designed by Mciahel Janich. Goes for about $60. Aus 8 steel. And if you're not concerned about like having a super steel, you know, you could just buy this for a much lower price. Black Hawk Be Warned. Browse blade, Silent Soldier folder. He's added a retaining ring, right, for even more control. And then here we have a Spyderco blade. This is the Spyderco Warning knife. It's a cheapie but a goodie. It's basically just a box cutter on steroids. I'll include a link to my review of this this budget box cutter super light slashy blade. But yeah, that's a budget take on the same idea. So you see the Wharncliffe style blade, it's certainly not a new idea. It appears again and again in different cutlery, just as a buoy or a clip point or a spear point recurs again and again because it is useful. Overall, this is an extremely high quality knife. The initial sharpness, very high. You know, all the grind lines and symmetry is perfect. The lockup is solid. The deployment is smooth. It's nice and fairly slim. Gives you an excellent grip with the texture of that carbon fiber. Right? Has a 4-way clip. So yeah, I mean, this is a first-rate knife. The S90V steel, a very good steel. This has a lot of secondary utility because it's basically like a super box cutter. So while you're waiting for your knife fight to happen, you can use this as a everyday carry utility blade. The price tag on this was $230. A lot of that is just for that premium steel, but don't panic. You know, the regular model of this knife is about $120, and that has S30V, which is certainly not a bad steel in itself. The only reason I got the fancy model, well, number one, I like the steel, but you know, something like this is going to retain its value better through the years. You know what I mean? And as I said, you know, hopefully you're not getting into knife fights every day of the week. So until that fateful day happens, this is essentially a $230 box cutter and a collectible. And so if it's going to be a collectible for most of its life, I want it to be as collectible as possible. So that's why I wanted the super steel and the limited run. So do I recommend this? Well, it's not for everybody. I mean, not everybody wants to spend that much. But as far as compared to other stuff in its price range, it's a pretty damn good blade. I mean, I can't really find anything wrong with it. It's a great blade, and most collectible blades like this don't have as much secondary or primary use as a tactical blade. You could actually, I mean, this is battle ready, so to speak. I mean, I wouldn't hesitate to recommend this if you're a police officer and you need a folding utility as well as last ditch blade. This would be pretty awesome. So yeah, I'm happy with it. I think Spyderco has done a very good job. I have to say, it took a lot of self-control for me to not buy the regular model for like the 2 or 3 freaking years that it was out. And this had been announced way in advance, but it just kept taking more and more time. And it took a lot of self-control not to just pull that trigger on the regular model. But I saved all my little peanuts. I saved all my little beans for those years. And I'm glad that I did. I don't just buy things willy-nilly. I knew this was coming. You know, over the last couple years, like, many people asked me to review the regular model, and I said, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. I'm not going to buy the regular model and the super duper model. I don't have that. I don't want to spend that much. I'm either going to buy one or the other. All right, so yeah, took some self-discipline. Was definitely worth it. I hope you enjoyed this review. This has been We All Juggle Knives. I'm out.